welcome to this video. Today's going to be quite a special video. I'm going to be doing a review of Paul McCartney's new album, McCartney 3. So, yeah, this album officially comes out tomorrow, but I got wind that a certain British supermarket was actually stocking it early. So I just so happened to be passing, and I popped in, and lo and behold, they had quite a few of these on the shelf. So I just thought that I would get it at home and give it a good listen and do a wee review of it. So I'll just be doing the usual thing in this video. I'll give a bit of background information about the album, and then I'll go through each of the songs and then a final rating for the whole album. So this is the third completely self-recorded, written and produced album by Paul McCartney. Follows in the footsteps of his 1970 debut McCartney and 1980s McCartney 2. Notably, when the debut album was celebrating his 50th anniversary back in April, I actually put up like a post like on Instagram saying, wouldn't it be great like if Paul released a McCartney 3 like this year? And he might have read it, like, who knows, but probably not, but certainly that's exactly what he was doing, and exactly what we have got at the end of the year. So McCartney's plans for this year, he had no intention to release or make an album. Instead, he had a lot of touring commitments and a headline appearance at Glastonbury to look forward to. However, of course, the coronavirus pandemic caused him and everyone else to stay at home. So in the spirit of the other two McCartney albums, he began sort of messing about in his home studio, and then eventually found he had a batch of songs which he felt altogether would make quite a nice wee album. So the promotional kind of thing for this album has been a little unorthodox. There wasn't an official single, which I think must be the first time since I'm struggling going back, maybe even the first McCartney album didn't have a single released from it. So it's certainly a strange thing to do there, not to release a single. And to be fair, I do actually doubt that a lot of people outside the McCartney's fan base were even aware he has an album coming out. There's also a lot of different vinyl configurations and different colours of it. Perhaps maybe an attempt to get another #1 album. I mean, notably in the UK, he's not had a #1 album since Flowers in the Dirt all the way back in 1989. So it would be a big deal him getting another #1 album, and for me certainly would be well overdue. Critical reception to the album has been very positive. It's certainly for me, I've been a fan since at least Kisses on the Bottom, his, and I think this is the best reviews a new McCartney album has ever got since I've been a fan. And I'd say it's his best reviews all round, probably since Chaos and Creation in the Backyards. The NME called this album an unpredictable quest of musical evolution, so quite high praise indeed there. So I will show you the CD. This is, as I said, just a standard CD I got when I was down at the supermarket earlier. So cover off it, I must say that when it was first announced, I wasn't taken by the cover, but it is growing on me a little bit. It does remind me a bit of the first McCartney album, quite sort of a kind of simple, slightly sort of symbolic image there, of just the die set. But the back cover is really nice, just a sort of lovely profile shot of Paul there, just looking really sort of the elder statesman of rock there, he is. So yeah, lovely back cover, and it's got a nice sort of gatefold here, which again really reminds me of the first McCartney album, which had a similar kind of photo collage on it as well. The CD itself just looks like this, just a black CD with the track listing there. And there's no bonus tracks. There wasn't a real deluxe edition of this either. I did order, there was a Japanese version of it, which I think might arrive at some point next year, hopefully. But that had 4 different bonus tracks on it, studio demos and studio demos and whatnot. And they've just got the booklet here, which is mostly lyrics, but also some really nice pictures of Paul in there as well, playing all the different instruments. So yeah, really fantastic. Again, wee booklet there, and then just more photos of Paul, and then the credits, which are rather short because it says instrument and voices, everything done by Paul himself. Okay, so I'll now go through each of the album songs in detail. I will score each track out of 10, and then use those scores to give us a overall percentage marking for the album. So it kicks off with a track called Longtailed Winterbird, which is a mostly instrumental opener, and it was the first track, the first sort of taste we heard from the album, it was in the sort of 40-second teaser trailer released back in September. It's got a kind of bluesy acoustic feel with a solid riff, and like some lyrics on it, although they're very sort of like, they're more kind of like texture rather than like sort of like conveying like any meaning really. My main complaint though with the song and why it is only getting a 7 out of 10 is because of the length. It's 5 minutes 10 seconds this, which is quite a long for a rather repetitive instrumental. I personally think it would have been a lot more effective had it been maybe cut down to 2, maybe 3 minutes and work kind of as an introduction to the album. Which, I mean, this does work like to some extent, but I do just think it maybe does drag a little bit towards the end like of the song. But certainly it does let us know that this is going to be a very different album compared to like New or Egypt Station.
Well, I can find my way, I know my left from right, because...
Next up is Find My Way, which I believe is going to be the single from the album. It was actually previewed maybe about a month ago now on the Breakfast with the Beatles like radio show. So like I heard this one like a few times before the album came out, and I love it. I think it is a great song. I think it's really quirky, very poppy, but very quirky though. It's got this kind of slightly interesting, slightly off-time drumming on it. I think vocally on it, Paul sounds very strong. He sounds very comfortable singing it, and like especially so like when even when he goes like slightly higher, like in like his range, like up to like that falsetto bit, like for the chorus. I think he just sounds really great. It's just a real pleasure to listen to. Production-wise, it is quite contemporary sounding. I love how there's lots of different layers like in the song, which kind of come and go, sort of like such as like these kind of like guitar loops, like sort of like different pianos, and like some horn stabs as well. Lyrically, I think there's certain lines which certainly reference like the current pandemic. He sings on it like, you never used to be afraid of days like these, and now you're overwhelmed by your anxieties. So yeah, I just think it is a really, really, really great song, this. For me as well, the ending of it kind of has like a false ending. You kind of think it ends and then it kind of just starts back up again. That reminds me a bit of the Beatles song Tomorrow Never Knows, kind of just with like the unique sort of drumming going on, and then all these different loops and sounds kind of coming and going. So yeah, that kind of just like came to my mind like when I was listening to it. And like I said, I think it is going to be a single, and I think it is a great choice for a single. So yeah, Find My Way will get 10 out of 10.
'Cause here come the pretty boys, they're gonna set you...
Next up is called Pretty Boys, which is a more kind of subdued acoustic number, which lyrically is basically about like a photographer kind of taking pictures of like male models, and how the models are kind of bicycles for hire and objects of desire. And I must say, like in like a funny way, it does actually remind me a bit of some of Morrissey's early solo work, I guess, kind of in like its romanticism like off like a profession, and that reminds me of something, say like Hairdresser on Fire, but kind of just the way like it's kind of phrased. I can certainly imagine kind of like old school Morrissey singing this song. As the song goes on, we get some more drums added and like really nice, tasteful electric guitar solo. It has got a kind of similar vibe overall to something like, say, Early Days, like musically, and I must say it didn't grab me too much on first listen, but it is growing on me definitely. And like yeah, like it is the kind of song like so like melodically at least, like what McCartney kind of could just write like in like his sleep basically. But yeah, Pretty Boys, really nice song there. Would give that one a 9 out of 10.
Hear me, women and wives. Hear me, husband.
Next one is called Women and Wives, which is a kind of piano ballad. Like Paul puts in a really unique vocal on this one. He kind of goes this sort of deep kind of bluesman style vocal, which is something he hasn't really done before, and it's a kind of voice like which certainly suits him like in like his older age. Instrumentally, it is quite minimalistic. You've basically just got about 3 instruments on it: piano, double bass, and some very light kind of brushes like on like the drums. The song has a sort of haunting feeling, with lyrics about kind of like wanting sort of couples to stay together as like there's sort of tough days ahead. Like with the lines on it is like, when tomorrow comes around you'll be looking at the future, so keep your feet up on the ground and get ready to run. Certainly I think these are some great lyrics, some of the best lyrics Paul's written like in many years. I think is definitely a step up from stuff like Come On To Me and For You from the last album.
Look out for Lavatory Lil. Look out for Lavatory
The next track up is called Lavatory Lil, which is a funny title there, and I think it's just a really fun little rocking song. This lyrically, he said it's about someone like who done him wrong, like kind of like again like I'm using lyrics on it about like one line like in particular is like, you think she's being friendly but she's looking for a Bentley. I mean, like, he has denied that this is about his a certain ex-wife of his, like Heather Mills, like whoever sort of like lyrics like that kind of thing, she might have been the inspiration behind like this song perhaps, like, but it is just a little fun little rocker. I love the drum sound on it, it's very tight, and this again just really fun kind of call and response like backing vocals on it. Reminds me of Something to Say like Nobody Knows, like off McCartney 2, kind of with its kind of carefree attitude. I mean, like, he's not trying to create a masterpiece like on this song, it is just a sound like of him having fun really. So yeah, I think like Lavatory Lil would get 9 out of 10 overall.
Sometimes I wish it would stay. Sometimes I wish it would.
Next up is called Deep Deep Feeling, which is a bit of an epic on the album. It's kind of 8 minutes, kind of like a magnum opus, kind of the centerpiece of the album. It kind of begins with this sort of haunting kind of drum pattern, and with very direct lyrics about the power of love. He sings like, sometimes I wish it would stay, sometimes I wish it would go away. Throughout the song there's some different tape loops coming in, and there's like bits where he's trying different things like with his vocals. There's a bit of like an auto-tune effect, it's like on like his voice at some point, and the song overall just has a really kind of psychedelic sort of flavour to it. But for me, it is one of these songs which I need it to grow on me like a little bit more, I feel. It's certainly not like a multi-piece kind of epic like say Despite Repeated Warnings or like Uncle Albert, like, or something like that, like where like it's sort of chopping and changing throughout. This one's a lot more freeform, a lot more kind of like hypnotic, and it kind of sense that he maybe was making this up like on the spot sort of thing. Like, it's not the type of song that where he really sat down and laboured over it. I think it just sort of like flowed out of him really, and I think it would probably fit on say like some like the Fireman albums, and I mean that when I'm describing it, all sounds like it's going to be amazing, but for me, just something doesn't quite click with this song. I don't quite love it yet. Like, I just think it is very repetitive lyrically, and it does. I mean like at like 8 minutes, for me it does slightly outstay its welcome. But like I said, I do hope it grows on me. I do like the song, and like I do commend him for trying something new, trying to push the boat out like a little bit. Next track up, which kind of would open the second side sort of thing, like if I had the vinyl, is Sliding, which, I mean, like, this starts like a run of 3 songs, which I think is as good as any run of songs like on any McCartney album for me. But Sliding is a great rocker. I heard one reviewer, before I heard the album, compare this to the Arctic Monkeys and like the Black Keys, and I can definitely hear that. It's a big sounding rocker. McCartney puts in an amazing vocal on it. For me, I would say the time off touring has really helped his voice. Like, he's like so at the time resting like his voice, it has paid dividends like with this song. Lyrically, it is kind of about flying, which isn't a new theme like in Paul McCartney songs, like I'm sliding, gliding through the air, I can see my body through windows in my hair. Now, I have also read that this song maybe goes slightly against the whole kind of self-produced, like self-performed kind of aspect, because it was derived from a soundcheck jam, I believe, and like this recording does actually feature his band members Rusty and Abe. But for me, I just think it's the music what really shines like on this song, both sort of like the instrumentation and also like the really good melody like on it as well. I would say McCartney's not rocked this hard since at least like Only Mama Knows, like, which was like, gosh, probably like 13 years ago now. So yeah, a really great song here.
The kiss of Venus has got me on the go.
The next track up is called The Kiss of Venus, which is a lovely little like kind of like romantic sounding like acoustic number. It's inspired by a astrology book, and it does have some kind of very sort of cosmic style lyrics like now moving slowly we circle through the square to passing planets in the sweet sweet summer air. Again, really nice lyrics, and kind of melodically as well, it does remind me a bit of like Andy Partridge's, like from XTC's, that kind of like writing style. Like there's like songs like on like the Apple Venus volume 1 album. It has a kind of very sort of similar kind of like rolling melodies and this just really gorgeous like chord structure. Paul's vocal, he kind of sings this as a kind of like a falsetto style, and it's very bare, very vulnerable. You can definitely tell his age on this song, but I do like it. I think it fits the song like rather well. Like halfway through we get a lovely like harpsichord solo, which is the only other instrument apart from like the acoustic guitar, and I just think it is the perfect touch, like I said, like on like an otherwise very sparsely instrumented track. Like in a previous life, this song might have fitted like right at home, like on like the White Album, like with like a more like youthful vocal. It has that kind of Mother Nature's Son like kind of feel to it. So yeah, for me, Kiss of Venus is a great song, and we'll get a 10 out of 10.
When the cold days come.
Next up is another favourite of mine called Seize the Day, which I've heard quite a few comparisons of between this and the song People Want Peace from Egypt Station, and they are kind of similar, especially like in like the verses, but by the time you get to the chorus on this song, it just blows it out the water. Like for me, amazing melody, meaningful lyrics, kind of relevant like to like sort of like today's sort of like pandemic climate. Like he sings like when he sings that when the cold winds come and the old ways fade away, there'll be no more sun, and we'll wish that we had held on to the day, seize the day. And I think, yeah, it is a great song. I think it should have been a promotional track for the album. I think it would have got a fair bit of play, like on like Radio 2, like over here. And it's just that classic McCartney style, very Beatle-ish, like kind of like instrumentation with this kind of bouncy piano, these sort of like guitars which just kind of float like along the song. So yeah, please seize the day. Great song there. Another 10 out of 10.
Wanna get deep down, look around this end of town tonight.
Next up is called Deep Down, which is probably my least favourite on the album at the moment. My first thought, like when I first heard this song, was the Driving Rain album. It's got a very kind of similar feel to it, like with like kind of like the electric piano and slightly lazy, repetitive lyrics on this. I mean, I do doubt that like a 78-year-old Paul McCartney would like to party every night. But yeah, it does have a kind of groovy kind of feel to it. But for me, again, the song is slightly overlong. It's about 6 minutes. And I mean, yeah, it has got some nice instrumentation on it. He's using his voice differently throughout the song, but again, I sense it is what he probably like made up like in the studio. I mean, probably like had quite a lot of fun making it, but it's certainly for me like not like a top quality song. But despite me saying that it goes on a bit, I do actually think it is in the last few minutes of the song where it really comes alive, because we get a really good breakdown where Paul then just sort of like starts sort of belting out like want to get deep down, repeats it, but he sounds amazing. Like again, it just really, like when I first heard that, I actually put a smile like on my face, just like wow, he's really going for it. He's still got it. Like even if the song itself like isn't amazing, like the songwriting like isn't great on this track, but his performance, his kind of passion for it really shines through. So yeah, for me, Deep Down would get a 6 out of 10 because it does definitely have some redeeming features about it.
When winter comes
and then the final track is Winterbird / When Winter Comes. This kind of comes in 2 parts. So the Winterbird bit is basically a short reprise of the opening track, which is nice enough. It kind of rounds off the album quite well, but then it kind of, they're not sort of seized up like in any way. It kind of then just sort of goes immediately into this recording from 1992, like When Winter Comes, and it is a bit jarring for me. Like kind of like the transition isn't handled like maybe too well, like I don't think. But the actual song itself, like When Winter Comes, is really nice. It's remarkable to think that he'd been sitting on this song since 1992. He kind of passed on it for Flaming Pie and like all the albums like since then. And it was going to be apparently on the Flaming Pie archive set, like, but like he considered it too good. And I would be inclined to agree. I think it is a really like lovely song. Like, and I think like had it just been released on that, I think it would be considered a real lost gem. The song is like a really charming track about basically life on the farm and like preparing for the cold winter season. Like he sings like when winter comes, when food is scarce, we'll warn our toes to stay indoors. And I do think that if this album turns out to be his last album, which I really hope it isn't, but it could be, you know, like it would be a fitting way, I think, to round off like his career, like kind of like almost coming full circle. Like he's back on the farm, he's back to like this like sort of like rural, like kind of like basic like way of living, because it for me really harks back to the vibe like of the first McCartney album and Ram. So yeah, for me, When Winter Comes, a lovely, lovely song, and like overall, take it like as one track, would get a 9 out of 10 from me. Okay, so overall this album would score 88%, so I think this is a great album for me. Like I think that there's no attempt on here to really make anything very commercial, kind of reach like a wider audience sort of thing, like he's done on say like Egypt Station with things like Come Unto Me and For You, or things like Dance Tonight, like kind of like China Right hits, you know. Here he's kind of just very loose, he's just having fun like making this album, and like for me I think that ends up being both the album's strength like and also its flaw. I mean, the flaws being that like there are a couple of moments on here where it is slightly I don't want to say like indulgent, but a couple of tracks do seem a bit underworked, like a bit repetitive, a bit long as well. So things like Longtailed, Winterbird, Deep Feeling, Deep Down for me like are like the weakest tracks, like kind of because like they do for me like just like go on like a little bit too long, like but at the same time as that, there are some great moments of just pure McCartney magic, things like Find My Way, Sliding, Kiss of Venus, Seize the Day. There are some great songs like which for me like will go down like as McCartney classics. I think it has got a strong sense of spontaneity, kind of playfulness, and yeah, I think it retains excellent melodies, and for me some of his best lyrics he's wrote as well, since Chaos and Creation and Memory Almost Full. Now compared to the other two McCartney albums, like sort of like self-produced, like self-recorded albums, I think this is possibly my favourite. I mean, like those two albums, they have been getting a bit of a critical reception and a critical reappraisal lately, but for me neither are among my probably top 10 favourite McCartney albums. Like I've always thought that they are a bit patchy, whereas this one here for the most part is quite consistent. Like I mean, like there's no sort of pure like instrumental throwaway tracks in there, things like Clean Accordi, like a bogey music, like there's none of that like on here, but it still manages to retain the kind of rustic and kind of homemade flavours which made both those albums like have so much character. I mean, compared to like his recent albums, I would say like on balance I probably still prefer things like Egypt Station New and Memory Almost Full to this, but I mean that's just kind of my preference. I do tend to prefer like when like albums are a bit more well produced, like sort of like well rounded, things like Ram, Band on the Run and Tug of War, but still for me a great album. Very glad that he like decided like to like work on like a McCartney 3, because I think yeah is a really, really strong collection of songs. So that's been my review of McCartney 3. So yes, I hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye.
I don't care to be bad, I prefer to think twice.